It's a warm welcome back. 2026, and we're back in the mix. That's right. This is a duo front court style, a big man and maybe another big man. Maybe we've gotten a little bit bigger because of all of that Christmas pudding. Quintin Denyssen here alongside my man, Jacques Vandescure and Wingspan, Full Court Africa. Full Court Africa. We're back and we're delivering the first episode of 2026. Jacques, it's just been a month since we've last been on air. A lot has happened, but how are you?
I'm good, my brother. I'm always excited to be on the podcast. A lot of things happen. You're talking about Christmas and the amount of food that I had to digest. So it definitely took a month for me to come back on this show. But I just got back from Malaga to follow the NBA Academy Africa, and then a lot of things happening around the BAL. I know we're gonna talk about it. I don't want to put too much stress on you, but very excited to be back on the show.
I'm also very excited, and you just spoke about it. So I think let's jump right in because BAL Season 6, everybody's been talking about it. They finally came and mentioned where the venues are going to be. So the 3 venues and 3 conferences this year, as opposed to 4. I think this is in preparation for the franchise model that was announced a little bit earlier in 2025. But we have South Africa as one of the host venues, then Morocco as the second venue, and that's going to be for the Sahara Conference, South Africa for the Kalahari Conference, and the finals will be back in Rwanda. And it's going to be interesting because they've gone back to 6 conferences. 6 teams per conference, and that in its own right has its own permutations. And I think it's going to make Season 6 very, very interesting. My initial thoughts are that this is going to be quite challenging for teams and for the players, because what we have seen, especially with the home and away format that was adopted a little bit later on, I know Season 3, is that it starts to take a toll on the players. And, these are high intensity games, where some people have gone because of the short format of the BAL. They're looking for a lengthened format. I'm sure that'll happen when the franchises come around. But as short as it is, it takes a big toll because you play 5 or 6 games, and now it's going to be increased with the amount of teams in the conference and in the pool. And then you play those games not back to back, but in a very short space of time. The body doesn't have too much time to recover. And I know in the past, a lot of coaches have said that, we prepare and we take a lot of time to get our players in shape and get them ready for it. But minute management has always proven to be a big factor. And if you look at the way that the last year's champions, Al Ahly Tripoli, Al Ahly Tripoli did with their minute management, it was almost precise. It was almost NBA-like in terms of the way that players were utilized and used. They understood their roles. When injuries happened, they try to, make the adjustments. And I think when coaches approach these conferences, and it's going to be great in Johannesburg. We don't know which teams are playing where, but it's almost a no-brainer to say that Johannesburg Giants will be hosting in South Africa and FUS Rabat will be in Morocco, and the other 5 teams or the other 10 teams will join them split. And how that will all break down, we wait and see, and it will be interesting. But all of that being considered, I think we have to talk about how much of a factor that minute management comes into it, and keeping bodies and players healthy throughout that. But also, there's a lot of pressure to win.
Yeah, no, you completely right. So, I was excited to hear the announcement, the dates, also the host. We're going back to Morocco. We had an amazing time being in Morocco, kind of discovering the ecosystem. The gym was full every time, so I think it's amazing to go back over there. It's definitely a place where you can see basketball grow. Even though, as you just mentioned, I think that the fact that we're going back to the all format is going to make it even more intense than the last couple of years. Teams have to adapt very, very quickly because they don't have the back and forth game. Now, on the other side, Q, you and I have a game in mind that was one of the most exciting games that I've seen at the BL, is when FUS, for the first time in Rabat, they played their first game and they beat the Angolan team, Petro. And that was the first time we were watching FUS. That was the first time at the BL, and we were like, whoa, that team is... they had Diallo, Diarra. They had the other young center from Senegal who's playing in college, probably going to have a chance to play in the NBA. It was just an amazing team, but they were so aggressive on on that game playing Petro, that what I liked about that, the way it was with the back and forth, that we were all excited about the second game. We just wanted to watch this matchup one more time. And, it's I think we're going to miss that. Back and forth, coach can adapt, have a chance live to scout their team playing, for the first time. They can adapt the second time. And even players can adjust the way they play and get used to the BAL intensity. So definitely, I think that's one factor that we're going to miss. But going back to 2 conferences, I would love for the BL to go with 3, 4 conferences. The more BL I have, the better I feel. But what I like is going to be intense. But I do miss this back and forth game when we have to see matchup twice and see how teams can adapt.
I do think, or I stand to be corrected, because they haven't made a formal announcement on format. But if you think about it, you got 6 teams in the conference, and you're still going to have around 12 games. So that should mean that every team is going to get a home and away again, and that should be a chosen format, because it does give, and because you spoke about it, the chance to adapt, because there's something strategically that coaches miss in one game, and like you said, you spoke about Fusrabat, and we were looking forward to and we did see what happened in the comeback, but when you continue to just look and you see that in the format and structures of the last 3 conferences, even if you go back last year, a team gets blown out. I'm going to go back because I want to use a South African example. When you think about NCT and MBB, and how those games looked, or also just how NCT looked throughout the conference. First 3 games, they were all at sea. It took a little bit of a while for Coach Bradley Ibs to figure out his roster. It's decided to go all local, and if you remember, that was quite a big thing. And then you look at how that all changed, and you do need a little bit of time to first adjust to your opponents, and then to just bring it on back. We can't take that away. It's 5 games per team. It will be interesting.
No, you are right. By the way, yes, there's going to be a back and forth, and yeah, I don't know how I missed that, and I'm very happy, by the way, about it. The thing, as you just mentioned, the teams like MBB, NCT, the thing that's actually good for those teams when they play the back and forth is we know that, unfortunately for them, their competition is not at the level of some other teams, like the Egyptian teams, etc. And so there is for them a high curve of improvement throughout the tournament. And the second game, and most of the time, I'll say the last part of the tournament, the last 30%, the last 2 or 3 games, you suddenly see them play at the level that you expected, because it takes time for coaches to find out who can compete at that level. As we just mentioned, those teams don't have the experience playing against teams of that level, and then they can adjust. And also players start to understand you got to be ready from the get-go. You got to be focused on your shot. You got to focus. You can't lose your concentration on defense, because once you get behind any Egyptian team or even APR, it's hard to get back. Those guys got either the personnel or they're organized well enough to sustain their leads early on, and it makes it very hard. But the thing, as you mentioned NCT last year, I mean, the last 2 or 3 games they played were such at a high level, using the local guys. And some of those local guys were playing better than the foreign players, by the way. I'm talking about the international. I'm not saying international for African players. I'm saying international out of the continent type of players. So we're going back to this on a smaller format. I'm just happy that the BL is back on their feet as expected. I'm just kind of questioning how long it's going to take for the BL to get into their franchises. We know we know how much it's going to cost. We heard about $50 million for a franchise. They're going to need a international type of arena. So I cannot wait to see who's going to be able to pull out those franchises in which countries and how fast they're going to be able to bring it together.
The next question, I suppose, and because we are going to get into teams, and we are going to get in depth in terms of the team. So I'm not going to take our own thunder, because that's part of the breakdown, and part of how the season will pan out is understanding who's been signed or what potential signings have been made. So we're not getting into that on this episode at all. But I think the question is going to be, is there a way to end North African dominance? Those teams, it doesn't matter which country they come from, but with the introduction of Club Africa, they bring their own dynamic. And when you look at FUS Rabat, and then you still have not the Libyan champions, the team that beat the Libyan champions, still Al Ahly, who've been to the finals before. They are looking for their own form of redemption. And you look, those are three strong names already. And the only shining light from West and East and South is Petro de Luanda, because you know what? They've been in every single BAL, and now they are the only team and only franchise that's played in every single BAL, and they've been to every single playoffs. And, you don't expect anything different because of their experience, because of their roster, because of their consistency. And then, of course, because of Angola winning the Afrobasket last year, there's a lot more pride behind Angolan basketball once again. And maybe there's a lot more emphasis and a lot more pressure. So Petro will be looking to either replicate, get to the final, first of all, and then they want to get over the hurdle. They won't be going back to back, but maybe they can just continue to play the same way that they've been playing. And that's one of the key narratives, I think, when we go into season 6.
Yeah, I agree. And I was with Carlos Moraes about a couple of weeks ago in Berlin. He was there for the Orlando Magic game, international NBA games, and we had a chance to discuss. I was actually excited to have the BL make a stop in Angola, and for some reason it didn't happen. But that's definitely a market that you want to take a look at. There's a lot of enthusiasm around basketball in that country. We understand why, because they have the history, they have everything to be a powerhouse, and that's what they proved last year. And Petro has, I said, they really went through the wave of a top team that when you expected them to win it, they couldn't make it happen. And maybe one of the year that you're like, man, this year's gonna be. I mean, last year wasn't transparent, clean, clear. You can define it the way you want it. It didn't look like they were going to go all the way, but they found their best basketball at the best time, and they won it. We know Petros get pressure every year, but now that you win it once, you got to win it twice. And by the way, I'm saying last year was Al Ahly, but the thing with Petro is, the year before, time goes by fast, is now they got to bring it back and find some consistency, because I think that they kind of remind me sometimes of the Miami Heat with LeBron James. I'm not saying that they have the best roster, but we do feel that with a little bit of luck at the right time, they could have got more than just one championship. And this could be for them the way to come back. They won it. The Al Ahly last year was amazing, but I think that now definitely is one of the top teams that can go all the way.
Definitely going to be tracking the Angolan champions journey. It's going to be an interesting one, and they are, they're the most successful team now in the history of the BAL with their 6th consecutive appearance. Let's move on to something a little different, and this is something that is completely in your wheelhouse, Jacques Vandescure, because we're talking youth basketball, and we're talking African talent, and we're trying to find the up-and-coming stars, and there's no place that you can look. We can look no closer, look no further than the NBA Africa Academy, as they made their way to the Vandescure Global Cup. I saw them in action for 3 days, January 29th to the 31st. And some of youth basketball's most exciting talents across different countries and different continents. And for the first time, NBA Africa Academy, they picked up 3 consecutive wins. So the last win against Unicaja from Spain, they did a pretty good job. But that being said, with the success of the academy, they've got some new recruits, and one that particularly caught the eye. He had a 35-point game, and I'm sure you'll get into with a game winner. Mahamadou Landoure is a 6'10" center, born in 2009, class of 27, and is a Malayan. They just continue to produce outstanding talent. Tell me a little bit more about the young man.
Yeah, we're talking about outstanding talent. Yes, they were in Malaga for the Advanced Global Cup. That was the first time in Malaga. And there were some pretty big schools at the event. You mentioned Dubai, Malaga was there. A few prep American schools, IMG was there. So it was very, very interesting to see how the NBA Academy Africa was going to be able to compete against those guys. Coach Mavomo did a great job. They went 3-0. It wasn't easy, a very kind of athletic, very physical way. Referees allowed the game to be played without too many calls. So it wasn't easy to be organized, but the NBA Academy did a great job. And I'm telling you, I don't know what's in the water in Mali, And I need some of that water, by the way. But hey, man, 2009, I think the kid is legit 6'10", might be 6'11". Looks like, and I'm saying 250 pounds. And you know how I'm close to 250 pounds, unfortunately for me, but the kid must be around 275. He is one of the biggest player that I've seen in that age group worldwide. I've never seen, we're not talking about, big and heavy as you see it, where
Muscular.
it's not exactly. He's got the big legs, the big calves, big behind, shoulders, everything else, a huge body. And he was impactful since the get-go. I mean, he spent a couple of years in Spain, went to the NBA Academy. I think the NBA Academy also has done a good job bringing back some of the talents on the continent because of the quality that they offer at the academy. But I'm telling you, this kid has to be on your list when we're looking at kids that's going to have a chance. So he's going to be in 2028, going to be in the draft. Post up hard, physical, wanted the ball, finished with both hands, looking like those conservative big guys because, he's so heavy. That's why he loves to be in the paint. But once he get the ball, the last time that I've seen somebody getting triple-doubled was in the early 2000s with Shaquille O'Neal. I haven't seen that since then. But the kid was, the first game, they won one-on-one, and he spanked anybody who was close to him on the board, finishing in the paint. Then they started with double team. In the last game, they went triple teams. Veritas Prep went triple team on him. That's why he was a little bit limited, with 12. I think he had 12 points or something like that. But he was capable to find the open man. But I'm telling you, big, huge. What impressed me is that, a lot of time when you see African players, it takes them to understand what they can do on the court. And the kid, is laser focused on his ability close to the paint, which means he puts his weight over you, pushes you, get the right position, finish hard despite people around him. A huge talent. And so let me, there's so many things happening. So we can talk about Madwak, right? We can talk about Chomche, one of my favorite all time. Sila, who played with Fus, who dominated as a rookie at the BAL.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're probably missing a couple of big men who really put their names at the NBA Academy,
You
right?
can also put Ruben Chinyelo in there. You see what he's doing out there in Florida.
You're hurting me now. You're hurting my ears. Ruben was a monster. Ruben will bring the pain. And you know what? It's funny because my work is to get intel about players. And I was watching practice. Ruben, okay, you score on Ruben, he's going to hurt you physically. He's going to push you so hard that you're never going to try to do anything against him. Yeah, Ruben is one. And then Landoure is definitely on that list of probably the best big man on the continent. I said, when you look at him physically and what he was able to show, he's one of the best big men globally. Born in 2009, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's
2008,
right.
2009. And I'm telling you, I can only imagine the number of messages, email. I don't know if people send letters anymore that he receives because he's going to be on top of the list going to college.
Well, one of the interesting things, and I think one of the best developments to come out of the Basketball Africa League has always been the Elevate program. And so you know that the Elevate stakes are always rise because there's players that attract the eyes of the coaches. And even though they have a short introductory time, you understand which players can have an impact on the floor. We've seen it over the years, the names you mentioned are names that have been completely relevant. Kaman was really great in the BAL. So was Chomche. So was Ruben Chinyelo. We can continue, and we can build a whole compendium of names from guys who've just been continued to add value. When I had a look at Landoure, and I just had a look at one or two of his games, his first of all, his physical stature does stand out. He knows how to move very well inside the paint. His positioning is almost impeccable. He's great on the pick and roll. He gets into spaces, and he's a legitimate lob threat, catches the ball comfortably, but can come down with it and go back up because he's just a big physical frame, nice touches on the inside, and so certainly something that I think the BAL coaches will be keeping an eye on,
Oh yeah.
especially if he's going to be a part of the Elevate program and in those things that that they are looking, because backup bigs are hard to come by and they're expensive. And if you can get that value from a young up and coming star, probably, on his way to definitely college, but maybe the NBA. And I mean, you're the scout here, and you can tell me whether that's accurate or not. But it's a lot of reason to be excited.
Hey, listen, if I am one of the BAL teams, I'm calling the NBA Academy, and I'm having an eye on how do they do the draft. All I know is I can get a kid that is 6'10", 6'11", that can give me probably during the BAL is going to be around 10 points, 5 rebounds. I don't have to pay him, by the way. So he's going to duplicate, and that's important. He's going to duplicate what Sila did, because you remember how Sila put Fus in a different dimension in terms of athleticism and motor on the court. Sila was completely amazing. I'm telling you, Landoure was going to be incredible. Whichever team, and I'm hoping it's not MBB, by the way, because if MBB gets him,
Joburg
he's going to
Giants,
play
man.
35 minutes.
Joburg
Oh,
Giants.
no, my bad. Joburg Giants. If the Giants get him, they're going to play him 30 minutes at least. He's going to end up with 20 and 10 every game.
Put some respect on South Africa's name. We got some bigs, and the Giants
Hold
are
on,
doing
you
some
haven't seen that
recruiting.
kid though. No, and I agree with you. David Craig, right? Last year, took me some time to understand his game. He was one of the highest IQ at his position, very smart with the ball. You look at his size, you understand why he's going to be slow. But I thought he was amazing during the whole tournament. So it was definitely one of my favorites. But I'm saying if Landoure ends up on a team that needs a big, oh my goodness, you're going to look like heaven during the whole tournament.
He's definitely going, and in your mind, he's doing 20 plus minutes and he's giving you the numbers that you're talking about if he sees the ball. But legitimately, he'll be picking up rebounds or he'll be active on and off the floor. I guess the way to close this one out, Jacques, because we're moving, time is flying, and we didn't want to discuss teams, but we have to have a look at one of the biggest stars of 2025. And, with the announcement that he's headed back to Libya from the Windy City Bulls, that certainly does garner some attention. So I think he's probably the best example of what an African pathway can look like if you think about how he's created value for himself on the continent and then turned that into value that is valued off the continent, and just because of hard work, his style of play, and his improved shooting. Jean-Jacques Boissy, the BAL MVP, is going to be a part of the BAL in 2026 as he makes his way to Al Ahly, and Al Ahly Libya is what they call in the BAL. They re-signed him alongside Mo Sadi, so they like that pairing, they like that partnership. And remember, he did this coming off the bench, and it's always big news whenever there's news about Jean-Jacques Boissy, especially for us. Stint with the Windy City Bulls, he probably had the most dynamic 2025 of any African player, other than Aliou Diarra, who's still doing some amazing work out there in Italy, and he continues to grow his star in EuroLeague. They both had amazing Afro baskets, but a lot to be excited about, and definitely a player to keep an eye on, just to see if he can keep the level what it is, or in knowing Jean-Jacques Boissy, if there's even a way to improve, how that could potentially look, because he had a record-breaking season, especially with his conversion rate from the three-point line, and just I love his defensive intensity. Jean-Jacques Boissy does not make anything easy for anybody that is defending.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what you do in life. If somebody wants to renew your contract, that means that you have value. That means that your value is being recognized, that you've done something good, that people want to bring you back. Because the thing about basketball, it's a business like any other business. People bring you back, that means they appreciate you. And I think that's big for somebody, for Jean-Jacques Boissy. He's one of the fans' favorite because of his style of the game. He's very versatile with the ball. He's very aggressive, plays with a lot of emotions. But, that doesn't always adapt to your employee, by the way. When you get on the court, you got to be about your business and make things happen. And we know it's been hard for him at the BAL, which didn't, I'm going to say, more importantly, prove his level of resilience. than anything else, because he kept on coming back, he kept on training, and finally he get the season that he wanted to have on an amazing team, by the way. I think that last year he proved that he can play under control, that he can play multiple positions, but also we talked about that in the past, is that he's a lot about the team. I saw him on the bench being up for his teammates, giving five, getting excited for what his teammates were doing on the court. And I really saw that he was concentrating on the win. Going to the G League is always a juice step. I was at the Summer League for, this summer when he was with his team, didn't get a lot of playing time, but that's the way it goes, guys. People gotta understand, and that's an advice that I give to young players. Everybody wants to get in from the front door. What I'm saying, you want roses, you want everything, and you want to say, "Hey, I'm the big dog. Look at me. Everybody's is expecting me." But that's not always the case. Some people, you got to sometimes go by the window, the backyard. You just got to find your way in, and once you're in, you got a chance. So going to the G League was definitely a good experience for him. He didn't play as well as he wanted to play, or as much as he wanted to play. But there's something about Jean-Jacques Boissy that reminds me that at the beginning of the BAL, as you just mentioned, he wasn't the player that he was last year. It took him some time to get used to it, to find his shot, but once he got it, and last year wasn't just 1 or 2 games. The conference they played, his percentage of shooting, I mean, it didn't matter if there was somebody defending on him, if it was in fast break, it didn't matter if it was sideways. He made his 3-point shots in a way that I've rarely seen, probably never seen at the BAL, by the way. So he's coming back to Al Ahly, and Al Ahly, what we know about that team is they don't joke around when they recruit. So when you get that call from them saying, "Hey, we want you back," that tells a lot about your value. I'm excited to see him back. I'm excited for him to face the kind of defense and intensity he's going to face, because there's always, either it builds you or it breaks you, but you got to go through it. So the next step for Jean-Jacques Boissy, like I said, one of fans' favorite, in Senegal, is already a legend. But I think that's what we're expecting, and it's going to make it the perfect movie for him. If they come alive, survive, and win it all, that's just going to add another layer to what he has done for the BAL.
I don't know how he betters his 2025 because he was BAL champion. He picked up the MVP award. They went along with Al Ahly Tripoli and picked up a bronze in the Intercontinental Cup. They were the first African team to ever do that in the ICC. Then he goes ahead and he breaks a scoring record. I know he would have wanted it a little bit more in the Afrobasket, but now holds the record for the most individual points in the game. He goes ahead and scores 40.
He killed it.
And he breaks Jeff Xavier from Cabo Verde's record. That's how you get an opportunity at the Windy City Bulls. Like you said, it might not have gone the way that he wanted it to go, especially in that league, but different style of basketball. He's adaptable. I think, given his character, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him back, not only in the G League, but trying to push for a spot a little bit higher up if he can. You get the sense that his desire for success is limitless, but his desire for success is matched with his work ethic. He doesn't just talk about it. He tries to produce it on the court. And like you said, he's a good team. He's a team guy. You see how his teammates rally around him. You see how they cheer for him when as far as he's open. They encourage him to take shots. They love his style of play, but it's also because I honestly believe the work he does on the defensive end. When he played for ASB1, that was the first year that he made the all-defensive team, and no one was really talking about his offense. That's where Senegal fell in love with him. I think that's where a lot of people started to recognize his impact, especially off the bench, and I think that's probably why he came off the bench for Al Ahly Tripoli, because of his effectiveness for ASB1. He moved in and out of the starting lineup, but seeing what will happen with him this year, maybe he earns a starting berth, maybe he still doesn't, because of the impact that he gives both on the defensive end and the spark plug that he is on the offensive end, and it often changes the momentum in a game, and even that is worth a lot of money that you're talking about. And without a doubt, he's a crucial signing, and like you said, there's a reason they sign you back, because they see the value that you bring, especially in a variety of circumstances.
And let me just add this. I don't think Al Ahly was the only team who called him. What I would think that APR was probably in one of those calls, made one of those calls. So
Especially
when it
since he
comes
was
to
at Rig, the previous year. I mean, he was in Rig
yeah,
in 2025 as well.
so he definitely got a few calls from pretty cool. All the best team probably called him. That's what I imagine. I mean, I would have called him if I was a GM of one of those teams. As an African player, you can't get any better than him and what he has done the year before. So when it comes to financial offers, it probably flew above our paycheck, and he probably got some high offers. But his decision, I think, is a smart one to get back into a program that he knows, with an environment that he understands, that an environment that was as good to him as he was good to the environment, which is great. um, and the thing that he did last year, and I just want to say that he broke all these records coming off the bench. It is very hard to teach a player that sometimes less is more. They find the right words, and he made mistakes, like every player make mistakes, and this type of games is actually a game that is very difficult to control. But I saw how he reacted to his coach, to his teammates. He was organized. The thing, when you see players, you come across players like Jean-Jacques Boissy. Well, the biggest part, what scares you about them is, can you ever control his game at any moment? Can you ever control him at any moment in a tough game? Because the games are games you're gonna win. The other games are gonna be close. There are games that you hope you're gonna win. And in those games, the score is tight. You need to have people in control that can go through the offense, make the right decision, communicate without having too much emotion. And I think that the year passed, he showed that he was a little bit too emotional, that he would go for the most difficult shots. And last year, it was just the right mix. So they definitely added value to him, and he's back on that team. This is going to be, there's so many stories that's going to happen within the BAL this year. We talked about Petro. We talk now about the personal situation of Jean-Jacques Boissy, and APR is going to be extremely exciting.
I think we're in for a dynamic season 6. Certainly looking forward to it. It's going to be something for the eyes to feast on, and every basketball fan, every continental basketball fan, every worldwide basketball fan, because we have our own flavor out here on the continent. It's going to be something to keep your eyes on. Season 6 is going to be the one for the books for sure. Not Jean. Now we're about to call you Jean-Jacques. No, man.
Jean-Jacques, hey, you go ahead, man. I got that shot, baby. I got that shot.
Jacques Vandescure, we've come to the end of another episode of and the first one of 2026 for Full Court Africa. That's how we do it out here on the podcast. You want to keep it locked in here, and don't forget to like and subscribe here on our YouTube channel. We value everybody. We've been getting some great feedback. Give us your thoughts. Maybe we got it right. Maybe we got it wrong. Every thought counts, and we'll be here covering African basketball with our wingspan.